We move through life surrounded by people we may never fully know. The stranger on the street, the person across the room, the mentor we admire, the friend we thought we understood. Each one carries a world of memories, dreams, pain, joy, and purpose. I'm Dante Patterson, and I'm searching for the stories hidden inside everyday life. This is Everyday Lives, Passionate People. Welcome back to Everyday Lives, Passionate People. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're coming back, regardless, I am so happy to have you here. Before we get started, I do want to note that as of this time of recording, the first episode has over 75 downloads. Thank you all so much for your help and your contribution. Without you, I probably wouldn't have made it this far. Speaking of journeys, that is the premise of today's episode. It's going to be a solo episode, but it'll be about starting my podcast journey and starting something before you feel ready to start. I won't be pretending that I've mastered the art of being a podcaster, but I am going to share with you what I've learned while I've been doing it. One of my favorite movies of all time is Pixar's Monsters University. And I could go on for hours and tell you why I love it, but there's a specific instance I want to talk about. It's a little bit after it is the climax of the movie right before, and there are two Greek life monster teams. There's Roar Omega Roar and there's Uzma Kappa, and they're competing to be the best scarers on their college campus. Mike Wazowski, who is the leader of Uzma Kappa, he has this brilliant plan, and he looks to his team member, Don Carlton, and he asks, "Are you ready, Don?" And Don responds, "Well, I'm as ready as I'll ever be." At first, I kind of missed it, but I went back. But it was so strange that he said those specific words. He could have said, "No, I need more time." He could have said, "I need more planning." But he said, "I'm as ready as I'll ever be." We often think that feeling ready is a requirement for something. And sometimes that might be the case. You might have a test coming up, an essay or a report or a presentation. But what about when we want to do something new, like starting a hobby, a new job, or maybe even your own business? Once that's in the picture, we start hearing and saying certain things like, "I need more time. I need more equipment. I need more planning. I need to know exactly what I'm doing." When it comes to prepping and planning, I kind of found myself saying these same exact things. And here's the truth. Sometimes we say that we need more preparation just to avoid discomfort, and we just make it our excuse. And before you go on to cancel me or turn off the show, just let me give you some insight first. Let's go back all the way to March 2026. At this point in time, Everyday Lives, Passionate People, it was only a thought in a bubble, and I knew nothing about starting a podcast. I remember scrolling on TikTok and even seeing YouTube videos about starting a podcast. I would do so much extensive research on equipment and hosting and just having a show in general. And it was kind of overwhelming because I wanted to start a podcast, but I had just all these thoughts in my head. And each one of those thoughts was an excuse. I started listing off all those excuses I mentioned earlier. I don't have all or the right equipment. I talk too fast to be a good host. Podcasting is an expensive hobby. Okay, that last one has some truth to it, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. At this point, I wanted to start a podcast, but I had doubts and I was just throwing out excuses. I was hoping I would just wake up and be this incredible podcast host. But the truth is that never happened, and it's never going to happen unless I'm doing something about it. If you wanted to bake pies, are you going to keep watching and researching instructions and recipes on how to make a good pie crust and a good filling? Or are you going to actually make a pie? Newsflash, that was me. And if you're wondering, by the way, I never made the pies. One day on Amazon, I finally put together a shopping list. I got my microphones, I got my tripods, I got all my equipment, the audio interface, everything, and I pressed purchase. I didn't have a 12-step plan to start Everyday Lives, Passionate People. In fact, I didn't even have the title of the show when I purchased all this stuff. All I had was a desire to make something good and this crazy idea to be a podcast host. But there was more to it than just buying equipment. I had to start getting into the software and researching all of that. I mean, over the past few months, I've been playing around and making stuff with GarageBand, Final Cut Pro, CapCut, TikTok, Instagram. Guys, there's a lot of editing software out there. And even then, it's still a lot to keep up with now. Even on the brand end of this, I had to make ideas and plans to reach out for guests, making guest applications, the interest forms. It was a lot of work, but I noticed that hardest step was the first step. And after that, it was getting easier bit by bit. I wasn't waiting until I became a perfect podcast host. I became a better podcast host by hosting. There are 3 points that I want to share with you, but these points I'm also still learning. When I started the show, I was nervous about everything. What if people hated my show? What if my production quality wasn't good? And for my social media, I had the same thoughts. What if I just wasn't good enough? The common thread here is that a lot of what ifs invaded my mind, and it kind of made it hard to start. In fact, it deterred my confidence, but there was a trick that I learned that helped me overcome that. Keep going. Keep going through the motions. Keep practicing interviews. Keep practicing refining your system. You can't become confident by imagining success. You become confident by practicing those reps until they're perfect. Even the first episode I made, it took me 3 tries to get it right. And even to this day, I still feel like it wasn't the best. But if I was going to hyperfixate on the entire thing, I would have never uploaded it. So I made it the best I could, and I sent it off. Currently, I'm still setting up interviews for the future of the show, and I decided to practice my hosting skills by talking to my 3 friends, and they allowed me to have practice interviews with them, which I can't thank them enough for that because it really helped me. And I learned a lot about myself as a host too. The first interview, and this was me practicing for remote interviews, it was really good, except it wasn't. And here's why. Because I was so focused on the technical setup, I was so making sure that was everything working? Were the microphones picking up? Is the audio interface working? I was so hung up on the technology that I wasn't in the moment for the interview. I missed a chance to ask follow-up questions when I could have. So at the cost of making sure my setup was working well, it cost me some interview skills, but it's okay because it's just a practice interview. So the next interview I had, it went really well. I wasn't as focused on my setup, but more focused on the person and the interviews as I should be. And it was a lot better, but there's always room for growth. And I haven't had my 3rd interview yet, but I know it'll be well. And my social media journey has kind of been the same as well. I was super nervous to make my post. In fact, looking back, my first post, it was kind of a rush job to make because I wanted to get something on social media and I barely knew how to use Final Cut Pro. I just threw something together and threw it on there. But it was hard pressing the upload button. But the same thing here applies. After the first step, it got easier. I was able to post stuff on social media without having to worry, and I was less anxious. The overall point is that confidence is not passive. We can't expect to be confident in our abilities if we never take the time to improve or practice them. Have you ever felt like you wanted to start something new. But the thing is, you have this vision of what perfect and skilled and excellent looks like in your head. So when you try to attempt that, it doesn't go how you thought it did. Let's go back to the pie thing again. You know what a good pie smells like. You know what a good pie looks like. You know what a good pie tastes like. So when you make a pie, it doesn't look, smell, or taste like that perfect thing in your head. From that point, one of two things happen. You either get back on that horse and you try again, or you decide that you're so bad at this, you don't want to pick it up again. Let's focus on that second thought right there, because I feel like that happens with a lot of people when they try to pursue something new. A lot of people quit something new because they confuse being new with being incapable. The early stage of anything feels uncomfortable. And what tears us apart is that we know what good looks like, but we can't execute it. At this point, people throw in the towel because they think they're not good enough. But what people don't realize is that they're in the gap between starting something new and being a professional. Being new isn't proof that you're bad, it's proof that you have work to do. I remember when my family moved to Spokane, Washington, and my mom signed me up for tap dancing classes. Before that, I had watched this movie called Tap, and I loved the movie so much. At that point, I had in my mind what good tap dancing looked like. And on my first day, I was a wreck. I couldn't do the most basic routines. I felt super uncoordinated. I wanted to give up because I knew what these incredible tap dancers looked like in my head, but I couldn't do what they were doing. I didn't realize I was in that gap and I wanted to give up. Luckily, my mom made me stick with it. And if it wasn't for her, I probably would have given up on that. And I eventually did get better. And I also stopped relying on my classmates for help. All right, I'm gonna contradict myself here. I feel like I've been saying just start and keep going, but I'm not saying that. But earlier, I also said being too prepared is an excuse, which it kind of is, but at the same time, it isn't. And allow me to explain. Starting before you feel ready does not mean ignoring preparation. It means preparing enough to get started and you start improving gradually from where you started. Think of it like the Goldilocks method. If you overprepare, you start having excuses and you'll never start. But if you barely prepare, that sets yourself up for failure. But what I'm saying is you want to prepare just right. Let's take going to the gym for an example. If you prepare too much, you're going to start looking into extensive routines. You're going to be thinking about what should I be doing? Where should I go to the gym? What time will I go? And you have all of these questions in your head. You start researching, preparing, and you're buying high-end designer water bottles and clothes for the gym. And then at that point, you find yourself prolonging it. And next thing you know, a month has passed and you keep telling yourself the same excuses from before. Now, on the other end, we can talk about not being prepared. You can wake up and you're like, you know what? What the heck? I'll go to the gym. You have the nearest gym in khaki shorts and you don't know what a deadlift is. And you just do that for 40 minutes straight. You go home, eat mac and cheese, and celebrate. You go to bed. Then you wake up and you can't move your back in any direction because you were underprepared. So then what do we do? Do we take the time to prepare or do we just take that leap of faith? Well, you do both. I was in a similar position when I was starting the show. I was worried that I wouldn't have the best production quality and the best equipment. And newsflash about me, I have vicious all or nothing mentality. And I was thinking that I needed the best stuff to get started. But I remember seeing this one TikTok video saying that I can get great podcast stuff for a cheap budget. I mean, cheap is debatable, but the point is, all the stuff I got was a fraction of the high end stuff. And when I tried it out, it still had the same quality, tone, and sound as like the high end stuff you see that experts have. And that's when I took my leap of faith. I ordered the equipment, it got here, and it's great. And frankly, I wouldn't change a thing about that. Now I want to turn it to you who's listening right now. Maybe you have a passion or something you want to start. There are 5 things I want you to ask yourself. First, what are you waiting for to feel ready? Are you waiting for an opportunity? Are you waiting for a certain moment, or are you waiting for a sign? Maybe things at work and school are super busy and you're trying to find that moment where it all calms down. Same with your personal life. Maybe stuff at home is crazy and you're just waiting for that perfect moment. Whatever it is, I want you to identify that and be more aware of it. 2, what does your first rep look like? This will be the first thing you do 100 times, and that's how you build confidence, through constant repetition. Your first rep doesn't need to look great. It's about you finding your footing. If your first rep is making a pie, you don't have to worry about making it Gordon Ramsay seal of approval. I don't know why I'm mentioning pie so much. I'm probably just hungry. But the point is that you want to make sure you can do that first step, because it's the most important one. Third, what is one low-risk way to start your journey? Unfortunately, most, if not everything, cost money to start. But there is one factor you can't control, which is how much money you spend. Do you need certain equipment or accessories? And I'm emphasizing the need because we think we need all these luxury things. If you can make do with what you have right now, then go for it. Fourth, what are you calling preparation that might just be fear? I talked about it with the excuses, right? Some of the common excuses I hear is that I don't want to be embarrassed or I don't want to look bad. I want you to check in with yourself and I need you to assess, is this actually preparation or is this fear? Take ownership of that and decide for yourself. Your mindset is the only thing that's stopping you from starting this new passion of yours. Remember, you don't owe anything to anyone to get started with what you want to do. You should do it because you want to do this. 5, and this is the last one, and I think the most important one. Don't waste your time. It's now or never. I want to make something clear. A passion takes time or effort. And if you're not willing to put that time in, then it's probably not a passion. And I'm not saying you need to put in 30 hours every week and make it your second job, because that will lead to burnout. But what can 30 minutes a day get you? What can a few hours a week get you? You don't need to rush into this to make it your entire life, but you should start small with it and make it something that's manageable for you. So as we wrap up this episode, I want you to think about something you want to pursue or start up. There is this quote from Peter Pan, which I think is appropriate. I'll read it out now. What if I fall? Oh, my darling, what if you fly? This podcast exists because it reminds us that not everyone is polished and perfect humans, or that we've already become who we're meant to be. Thank you all so much for tuning in today's episode. Make sure you're following the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and even YouTube. And it would mean the world to me if you left a good rating. Maybe you need this episode because you're probably pushing something off, or maybe you have a family member that's just waiting to get started with something. Respectfully, they might need the nudge in the right direction. Anyways, that's our time for now. I'll see you guys later. Make today your masterpiece. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Everyday Lives, Passionate People. This podcast is built on one belief. Everyday people carry powerful stories. If you know someone whose story, passion, or journey deserves to be heard, send them this episode. Frankly, I would love to have a lot more people with great stories on the show. Follow along for more conversations about life, passion, purpose, struggle, and growth. I'm Dante Patterson, and until next time, remember this: ordinary lives can hold extraordinary lessons.